from the pages of Odon Journal to your speakers. This is The Juice by the Odon Journal. Daviess County News, freshly squeezed.
Welcome to the Juice Podcast by the Odon Journal. I'm your co-host, Grant Swartzentruber, and each week we'll bring you interesting interviews on local news, politics, and sports. If you're lucky, we'll talk about faith, culture, and politics. And today, we have Congressman Messmer. Good to see you.
Great to be here, Grant.
Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you for taking the time to do this. And I've known you for a while. Mm-hmm. I'd kind of like you to start out by telling us your connection to Daviess County. I know you were in the State House. Mm-hmm. I know before that you obviously weren't in elected politics, but maybe tell us about your connection to the county.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I'll kind of go back to the beginning. So as I was deciding, to run, for state rep and, after the 2006 elections, kind of into early 2007, once I had, and as we talk about faith and family, I'll cover a little bit more of that. But
sure.
One of the first people that I thought, it'd be good to, I went to the Congress of the Counties that they had at that time in May of 2007.
Okay.
And I met a gentleman there by the name of Martin Mumal.
Sure. And former treasurer of Daviess County and county chairman of the Republican Party.
Yeah, yep. So he and I met and talked, and I told him what I was thinking about, and he said, we need to get you, into some events in Daviess County. So through May, June, July, he did a pretty good job of introducing me to a lot of the, the influential political families in Daviess County. And
this is 2006?
Actually, at that point, 2007.
Okay.
So, met May of 2007, met Martin. I can't remember, maybe Dean Sebecki might have been hosting an event at his house a few weeks later. Met some of the Republican strong
apparatus.
Absolutely, introduced me to Jerry Harbstreit, and he said, and I knew from watching Dave Crooks's 2 or 3 cycles, before that, the Republican, whoever the Republican candidate was, would win Dubois County by about 1,500 votes, and Dubois County, Daviess County are each about 40% of the state rep district. But Dave would win, by a little bit in Pike and Martin. But then he would usually win Daviess County by enough to offset his losses in Dubois County.
Okay.
And I thought, Daviess County is a Republican county.
Yeah.
So Martin knew that as well. He said, so he introduced me to Jerry. We had dinner that summer, and Jerry agreed to be my campaign manager.
Oh, wow.
And over here again, from June, July, August, I would come over 2 or 3 days a week. We'd meet folks from around the county, and the last couple that he wanted me to meet was Tom and Peg Stevens, and who was the IU basketball coach at the time? He was in town.
Tom Crane?
Before Tom.
Archie. Was it Mike Davis?
Before that.
Was it Archie?
He came from Oklahoma.
Oh, Kelvin Sampson.
Yeah.
So
he was there. He was in Daviess County that night. It was a Wednesday night fundraising dinner for one of the foundations.
We're going to get hammered for forgetting Kelvin Sampson, by the way.
Well, I'm a Purdue guy, so
go ahead.
But he was there that night to help try to recruit one of the Zeller boys that was looking to go to IU. And the last couple that we needed to meet was Tom and Peg, and we met them there that night. And Dave was emceeing the event.
Wow!
And he saw all of the Republicans who had really supported him.
Sure.
And kept the Republican support for him in Daviess County strong. And the next day, Dave announced he was not running for re-election.
Wow. Saw the writing on the wall.
Yep. So really, and helped the local candidates. I think it was a mayor's race that fall. Helped the city council guys, the mayor candidate, helped them, do door-to-door work. Really got myself, pretty ingrained with, the community. I went to tons of community events in Daviess County, and
because you knew that was the key.
It was the key.
Yeah.
I mean,
so 4 counties, but you knew that you had to do well.
I knew I was going to win Dubois County. And if I did well in Daviess County, each 40% of the district, it was going to be done.
For sure.
Well, so then it was a open seat, and the dynamics changed a little bit. But then I represented Daviess County in District 63 for 6 years, and continued to work well. I think there was an issue in Daviess County up around the levee that I worked on.
Right. You worked on levy legislation.
Yep.
That it was just an outdated statute. We had to do some updates, and I've got to pay you a compliment. I mean, you did an outstanding job getting that done and just kind of putting the issue to rest.
Yeah, and I think you and I worked on that. That might have been where we got to know each other the best, was that year.
But the first time I saw you, I was at the Daviess County Right to Life event, and you were with an Amish gentleman who later became a friend, and I was like, wow, he would interact with, common people in our county, which I thought was really cool. And you were knew quite a few Amish folks, which was, I thought, very unique, and I just thought it was great. I mean, they're not going to vote for you.
They don't vote, but
they're still your constituents.
Yeah.
That's right.
And there's still things you can do to help
for sure
fix problems. And I've always viewed my role as a state rep, state senator, congressman. I'm not there as a representative of government, to you. I'm your representative to go beat the heck out of a bureaucrat. And I've had that perspective. And, whether you're Democrat, Republican, voting, non-voting, when people would call and ask for help, they would say, oh, hey, I voted for you. And, we have voter databases, and I'd look up, and you're not even in my district.
Yeah.
Don't tell me that.
That's what I told somebody.
As a means to get me
so
help.
You trust the people.
Yeah.
Congressman, trust the people who said, I didn't vote for you, right?
Yeah.
They're probably telling the truth. The others,
yeah, maybe not.
Maybe not. So you've got a long history in dealing with the county and surrounding areas. It used to be those 4 counties that you worked in and you represented. And then what year did you run for state senate?
2014.
Okay, 2014. And then what year, this is your first term still in
Congress.
Congress.
Yeah, ran for Congress in 24. And when I was running for re-election in 2010, Larry Bouchon, who won the seat that year, he and I kept meeting throughout the campaign year. I mean, just across the district, and got to know each other well. And as we kind of get into my the things that pushed me into office, it was really federal issues that drove my interest to run initially. And I told Larry then, when you're ready to retire, at some point, let me know. Let me know first.
Yeah.
Well, I think he did about 15 minutes before the press release went out. So he did let me know first. But
So you had to make a decision fast.
We had a very short window. It was the day before filing started in 2024.
Wow.
So I mean, there was a lot of things that I had to get in place. You got
to raise a ton of money to run for a federal election.
Yep.
And, I don't want to get into some of those things. I really want to hear, just the initial reason why you want to get into politics. On this podcast, I like to talk politics, but I really want to know people's faith background, their family background, like what makes them want to do this? Because it's not for the faint of heart.
No. And no matter what elected office you're in, you're in it with your family. Your wife and kids, like it or not, if they are part of what you do, and they get upset about how things get said about you in public. I mean, I can take a lot, but my wife and kids, they really get they get upset when people say untrue things. I mean, it hurts them more than it hurts me.
And I get that. You have to be thick-skinned, but also like when your kids hear something or when they see something. That's why we've had a few other elected officials on and talked with Senator Bassler about the redistricting question and this issue of swatting, where people were showing up at different folks' houses, or they were doing things to try to intimidate, lead to a dramatic response from a SWAT team. And I mean, it's dangerous stuff.
Oh, absolutely. So what really, probably a couple of years ago when the swatting of the public officials started to become a thing. I mean, I'm fortunate, the sheriff of my county is our backyard's, butt up against.
Oh, wow.
So I called the sheriff and I called the deputy, the chief deputy, and I said, if you all ever get a call,
Yeah.
Of some, family crisis or a crime being
Check.
committed, said, would you do Kim and I the favor of calling first?
For sure.
And he said, absolutely. And when we show up, it won't be with the SWAT team. It would be a couple of us, because we've had issues where in Minnesota, the elected folks got shot by somebody dressed as a cop.
Judge in Lafayette. Not that long ago. That was when they were trying to intimidate him, shut things down.
Mm-hmm.
We had that in Daviess County. Judge Arthur talked about it maybe 30 years ago. A guy that was going on trial, they believe, set fire to the courthouse. Ooh. It was a fascinating story he gave to some students at Washington High School a few years ago, and I was sitting on a panel, but I was like, how about that?
Didn't keep him out of going to court.
No, they set up a courtroom elsewhere, and he was found guilty.
Yeah.
Not ever for arson, but for what he was doing. So, So we've covered a lot of ground already, but I really do want to hear about your family background. Mm-hmm. I love that you've already brought up Kim. It's your spouse. Mm-hmm. You talked about your children. Tell me about your family background,
sure,
and how that's impacted your political pursuits.
Right. So Kim and I have now been married 40 years.
This year?
We'll going on 41 in June. So yeah,
good for you.
So we met in high school. Oh. She was a freshman. I was a junior. We were both in marching band. Started our first date was December 23rd, 1979. I remember that day. Kim, she's like, oh yeah, I forgot that's our first date of our first anniversary of our first date. We now have 4 adult children, ages 30 to 38, and 8 grandchildren, and the 9th one will be due on May 6th. So 3 of our kids are married, and they'll all have 3 at that point, and all willing to have more. Mm-hmm. Which is beautiful.
They're open to life.
Yep.
Well, congratulations for that. I mean, it's not easy to stay committed to your spouse and stay in a relationship. That's not always easy, right? But good for you.
I was one of the few that started dating a girl in high school, and then normally you get to college and things split up.
Yeah.
But we stayed together, and really, I think the commonality of our faith, mm-hmm. and I mean, I probably knew from within the first month or two that we were dating that I saw in her the character, the values, the faith that, she didn't know, but in my mind, I thought this is the gal that I want to marry, and stayed committed, stayed active in, a lot of kids go off to college and quit going to church.
Right.
Never missed mass on Sundays.
You went to Purdue.
Went to Purdue.
And you always went to church.
Always went to church.
Good for you.
Yeah. So when I was living on campus, I would either go, at home before I left to go back on Sundays, or I'd go Sunday evening. I think at 7:00 at St. Thomas Aquinas, they have on campus Sunday evenings masses. So I would either go here or go when I got back there. When I lived in Lafayette, my junior and senior year, we were close to the diocesan cathedral. It was just like 2 blocks from my house.
Yeah,
and I would usually walk. And there was one Sunday morning. I'm going to say it was probably, the January in '83. We had a 25 below blast, Arctic blast, hitting Indiana. And I get out to my car. I thought I'm going to drive today because it's cold. I got out there. Not even a click.
Nothing.
So cold. I thought, it's just 2 blocks. I'll walk. What a mistake that was. By the time I got to church, when that cold air hits your eyes water.
Yeah.
And by the time I got to church, my eyes were starting to freeze. But I didn't miss.
Good for you.
Yeah.
No, that's something that I know about you. You're steady and you persevere. Mm-hmm. Which is, 40 years being married, that's testament to that. Yeah. But even when we were working through the legislation, I was impressed with how you really thought about what it needed to be, and you worked at it. And, we're not just going to give up and give in. It's not when we run into something difficult. That's going to happen. It's how we go ahead.
You got to find a way around, over, under. Mm-hmm. And that's been my, my persona. for life. I mean, if you're determined, if you're committed to working, at whatever you want to be good at in life, you have to find ways to deal with the obstacles that'll be there.
Absolutely, and our faith plays into that too. And I want to talk about that. You're Catholic. You said you went to St. Thomas Aquinas, I think you said.
At Lafayette, yeah.
And within Catholic teaching, there's this concept of the natural law. The natural law and a handful of these ideas, they guide us along the way and help us to make decisions, right? Thomas Aquinas specifically sort of popularized using one's noggin together with the faith. So he blended many old ideas, maybe from the Greeks or whomever else, in a way that was definitely unique at the time. Kind of took the church out of the era of like maybe legends or folklore. We've got Saint Valentine's Day coming up. We don't really talk about Saint Valentine anymore because it's sort of been put off to the side. We're not sure that some of these people existed, but we know that St. Thomas Aquinas existed.
Absolutely. Well, and the founding fathers of our country studied natural law. When the framers met and debated and looked at our Constitution and how to set up governance, they went back to the theory of natural law, and there's a book called The 5,000-Year Leap.
Okay.
And it's all about our founding fathers and natural law, and how they built the foundations of our country, and if we stick to that, things work pretty good.
Oh, for sure. I'd like to know what that book is, and we'll put it in the show notes if we can.
It's probably been 10, 12 years since I read it, but I've still got it on my shelf, and it'd probably be good for me just to pull it back off and read it again.
Sure.
It's an amazing book about our founding fathers.
And so with your faith, I mean, it's my recollection that, I don't know if it was you or somebody else, but you were like at a retreat and you felt like it was something that you should do.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. So, as I was discerning, and a big part of the process of of having a push, to run for office. There's always something, and every person has something that what's the final, thing that drives you into wanting to jump in. Because, prior to 2008, I had never ran for anything, never thought I would run for anything. But as we went through the 2005 Base Realignment Commission process in Washington, the Crane Navy Base, at the start of that process, they thought they were going to pare down their number of naval surface warfare centers and consolidate some of them. And initially they thought Crane would be one of them, that they would break up all their pieces and send it to other warfare centers across the country.
Kind of a scary thought for locals.
Big deal.
For sure.
And there was 3 reasons for that. And it was in May of 2005, my first, click that, oh my gosh, we were that close. But he said, we worked with the Pentagon, and they said, you guys are a mile wide and an inch deep in, doing too many things for too many people. And the one thing that they were the center of excellence for since the beginning of the program was the submarine launched nuclear deterrent missile program. Crane has been the place that has developed, sustained, everything for that program. They don't produce the warhead there, but everything that it takes to get the missile built, the guidance systems, to load it on a ship, to launch it, everything but the warhead, Crane has been the center of excellence for from the beginning of that program now 60, 65 years ago.
Wow.
But they were not the center. They were not deep enough in enough other areas. And so they talked to the Pentagon. They said, we'll parse off a lot of these miscellaneous things. And they really focused from then on, not only the nuclear Trident program that they were part of, but electronic warfare and special ops is where they, and now if you're a special op, Navy SEAL, Marine, everything that guy carries, every weapon, everything that he carries into field, Crane has a hand on.
Mm-hmm. So the BRAC process, that's what they call it, right?
Yeah, BRAC. Mm-hmm.
That was back in 05, but there's been other concerns that could happen again.
It could, and so Commander Welch, I was a member of Jasper Quantas. The Crane commanders would come to speak to us once a year. So he said, we can fix that. But he said, there's two things that inside the gates we can't fix. He said, number one on the list for our closure, determination was the lack of an interstate. At that point, they had 1/3 of all of the conventional ammo for the entire DoD, and still have about 1/4 of all the DoD, all the ammo for the entire military stored at Crane. And they said, we are not sending hundreds of semis in and out of that place every day, going up 231 to I-70 or down 231 to I-64. Too much at stake. Too many small towns, too many places for, a wreck on 231, you're stopped. So
snarls some traffic.
Yeah.
But now that we've got I-69 as of 6 years later, 5 years later.
Yep. So Mitch Daniels met with the Pentagon and said, we will get a funding bill to the General Assembly in the 2006 session. The design at that point was about done, but the DoD said, you've been talking about building this interstate to Crane for 30 years, and we're done talking about it. And if you don't get it built, if there's another BRAC, you will be closed because there's too much at stake. So Mitch said that was in 2005. He along with the folks at Crane met with the Pentagon. He said, we'll get the funding in 2006, we'll start construction in 2008, and it'll be open to the base in the fall of 2012. And they hit those benchmarks exactly. Now, the one little thing that really, what's the straw that finally says, time to jump in?
Yeah.
The former state rep voted no on the funding bill, knowing everybody in politics, anybody.
Dave Crooks from Daviess County. Okay.
And
so you're like, hey.
That you are not serious about your job. You know what's at stake. You voted no to poke the governor in the eye and really put the economy of Southwest Indiana in major jeopardy.
For sure.
By more interested in playing games than serving the people. Now, there was political pressure from his leadership.
Yeah.
But he should have said
Pat
no.
Bauer.
Yeah. He should have said, no, Mr. Speaker, this is too important for my district. You got to let me vote yes. And it was going to pass anyway. But he voted no. And
that was the thing that got you in.
That was the fun. I mean, there was other things. I had watched him, he became my state rep in 2002 after the 2001 redistricting. And I had watched him a lot closer than I ever had before. He had been in office, a few years before that. But I would write him, I would email him, I would call him, and I'd always get the flippant. And I thought, but his vote on the major moves funding for I-69, I thought, I don't know what it's going to take to run against you, but I'm going to find out. If you survive the 2006 elections, because at that point it was past the filing period, I thought if you survive, I'm going to find out and run in 2008.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
That's what put you over the top. I mean, anymore, you don't have members of the state house or state senate or members of Congress who are Democrats in rural areas. It doesn't exist. And they credit Daniels a lot with sort of dealing with that or figuring that out. I mean, before Daniels, we had a number of Democrat governors, and right now in the state house, it's in the Senate, approximately 10 to 40.
40-10, and
it's maybe 25 to 75 in the House.
70-30, in that range.
So, and we'll have Dave Crooks on. If Dave, if you're listening, you can come on and talk about this a little bit. I've invited him to come on, but it's kind of in his rear view mirror. But he's the 8th district chair of the Democrats, and so I'll give him a chance to talk about it. But I think it's a fascinating story, and it's just when you look at any politics, we used to have. I mean, the area you represent was called the Bloody Eighth. So it used to be very split, right?
Yeah. Really,
it's not now.
Once we got past Obamacare, 2010, I mean, I think the National Democrat Party really, from the Obama's tenure and on, had lurched so far left that what I would say the conservative Democrat in rural Indiana, rural America, just said, I just don't identify with that, with that party anymore.
Sure.
And really, they went from conservative, Democrats. Du Bois County used to be all conservative Democrat elected office holders.
I mean, I think the governor kind of famously was the governor from Jasper. He used to be in the Democrat Party, and then at some point he changed. And even
so
John F. Kennedy famously, people say that if he was alive today, he'd be a Republican.
Yeah.
So
you could not look at what John F. Kennedy stood for in 1960, and he could not get elected today as a Democrat.
I just heard recently a guy that had previously run as a Democrat is running as a Republican as a local prosecutor, and I'm sure he'll win if you just change that. And it's interesting to me. So we talked about Pat Bauer. Pat Bauer would be from the South Bend area.
South Bend.
So let's really talk about faith, because some folks don't ever make the shift. We just finished, and I'm going to go to national politics for you because I want your opinion on this. We just finished a 4-year term with President Joe Biden. We now have President Trump. You very much were successful with the success of the national election and ran a lot on these Trump-based concepts. But Joe Biden claims to be Catholic, and at least in the past, he was a pro-life guy. They say Kennedy was pro-life or would be pro-life. I guess I want to know, how even former Speaker Bauer, and if he wants to come on the show, he can come on the show, and he would presumably claim to be Catholic. Explain that to me. How should I understand these things when you claim to be Catholic? Joe Biden claims to be Catholic, but you have very different views on certain things.
Well, I think, to me, it's impossible to segregate my personal life from my political life. If I say I'm Catholic and I believe, that and what I've heard many Democrat Catholics say is, I'm Catholic, I don't know that abortion is the right thing to do, but I don't want to impose my personal view, in my political life. I don't know how you segregate, but I've seen that at the State House. I've seen that, a lot at the State House, where I see the way people live their lives.
Sure.
And then I see the way they project or run, the things they say politically are 180 degrees contrary to how they actually live their life.
Sure.
That
shouldn't be the case.
Shouldn't be. No. Who you are, needs to be consistent. Whether it's your public life, your personal, what I say, I believe personally has to impact what I do politically.
Has to. We can't lead with our politics, right? We have to lead with something that's bigger and broader than that.
Yeah, you've got to have core convictions that drive your personal decisions and your public. You have to. Right. Our country's founders, here again, going back to our founders, they knew our country, our representative republic, the form of democracy that we have in our country, can only work as long as we have a moral society. And so, what we do politically, has to be consistent with a moral, virtuous people. The day that tips and goes too far the other way,
we're going to struggle.
Yeah.
When our system of law is not based on, say, the English common law, natural law, the ideas that our founders brought us.
Yep.
It's based on a
Judeo-Christian
background,
yep.
Western principles.
People can argue that it's not clearly. If you read every document of our founding fathers, they all, and there's an interesting chapter in that book about faith in the communities. And people always say Thomas Jefferson, wanted separation of church and state, but it's taken out of context. An entire chapter in that 5,000-Year Leap book is about, at the founding of our country, the courthouse was the church. I mean, they were integral. The fabric was tied together.
Sure.
And so, I mean, we need to have freedom for freedom of religious expression, but nowhere did any of our founders ever believe that Christian moral principles couldn't.
Yeah, it has to coexist. Our basis of law is based on our moral thought, that we think that, these ideas within the West, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not do this, you should do that. These things are important, and it forms the bedrock for what we believe in this country and largely within the West.
Yeah, and that's a big driver of why am I pro-life and why do I push pro-life causes? Because as a Catholic Christian, all Christian denominations, we are made in the image and likeness of God. And if we can't defend the most vulnerable people in our society from conception to natural death, we have to be willing to defend the people that can't defend themselves. And why, from way before I got into politics, as a member of the Daviess County Right to Life organization, we would go to the abortion clinics in Bloomington and Louisville and pray rosaries and pray for the end to abortion.
Sure.
My entire adult life, was active in that, and believe that why do we feel it's important to end abortion in this country? Because you are taking an innocent human life, and the longer we go in science, the more validated that pro-life position. I mean, your DNA, who you are as a human being, is completely formed at that moment of conception.
It's critically important for us to talk about. We talk about, even in the founding documents, life,
Life
then liberty, then property. It's not property, liberty,
life. If you're dead,
we got nothing
else matters.
Doesn't matter. It's extremely important. I'm glad you talked about it. So thank you for that. I could tell you were serious just by the way that you were communicating with me. But let's talk about where, obviously the Republican Party is consistently supported this concept. It's in the platform. It's important. It's kind of a key, if there is any litmus test, that's a litmus test. And we do have an opposing party that says it's a litmus test, but it's got to be the opposite way, right? Favoring abortion.
Right.
And what they would say is that it's an issue of freedom. But I want to talk about that conceptually and where your faith values maybe don't exactly line up with political values. I want to know if there are certain situations, So obviously the Catholic Church and largely the Christian church broadly will be supportive of the Republican position on abortion. Maybe social issues largely, although that's kind of changing, it seems. But some of these more recent things that we're talking about, issues of like immigration, and issues of, you talked about like the dignity of the person. So the bishops in the country, the Catholic bishops, they're not always aligned across the board with the Republican Party.
But not all bishops.
Sure.
Agree with some of the and what I'll let's look at immigration. The Vatican.
It's an extremely important thing right now.
Yeah, the Vatican is a country.
Yeah,
it has walls.
Yeah, I couldn't just move to the Vatican, could I?
No. No. But a country without borders is not a country.
Okay.
Now, do we need to reform, some of our immigration processes? To
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I'll say from the church's perspective, if somebody comes to your church door, somebody comes to your St. Vincent de Paul, so, organization, somebody comes needing help, does the church, have an obligation to take care of that person no matter what? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Should the church ever interfere with, immigration law? No.
Probably not.
No.
But we are told that we have to treat our neighbor, the alien, this issue of the migrant, we're to treat them well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say, and I've challenged our current bishop, and I've challenged our bishop before this one. When we say take care of those, the people, in our neighborhoods, in our in our communities, mm-hmm. I've said to our last two bishops, the church has abdicated its role in being responsible to take care of the people in our communities.
It's gone to the government.
An immoral, atheistic bureaucracy with bloated waste. So we've abdicated, really, let's take taxpayers' money, waste half of it, and be administered by an atheistic, immoral bureaucracy, rather than the church. For the last 1,950 years, the church did that.
Right.
The last 50 years, 60 years, we've decided, we're gonna provide welfare. But the farther any program, but especially welfare, the farther the administration of that welfare gets from the person receiving it. Look at today, the billions and hundreds of billions of dollars that get wasted, that get stolen, that the fraud, waste, and abuse. When you're administering that help in your community, the people that need it, and when we take care of each other, it's my responsibility to help who I can. It's my church's responsibility to help who they can. But the government never does a good job. And when you have federal bureaucracies that are so many layers away from, the people that are, using that service, too much of it gets wasted on bureaucratic oversight. And as we've seen in Minnesota with the, with the
some of the scandals, funding scandals.
Funding, the undercover, guys that have tracked.
Covered this stuff, right?
It's going to be, and it's not just Minnesota. That was the low-hanging fruit that was easy to find. I think every state, all 50. I think the people that administer these programs, there should be a heavy degree of auditing. And if they find out, that there's been intentional, fraud, waste, and abuse, people should go to jail.
Sure. So I wasn't going to talk about Minnesota, but there's some things that we like to talk about in Minnesota.
But when we look at the challenges of immigration, we need to. The people that are here who haven't committed a felony, who have been here working, for 10, 20, 30. Most of them probably came here legally, overstayed a green card, and just didn't leave.
Or came as children. And don't know any better.
Right.
They're not criminals per se.
Right.
And so Bishop Barron, if you heard what he said, the Minnesota bishop, he said, hey, this is, I think of him as a rationalist. He says,
I've met him. He's very rational.
Yeah. He says, let's focus on the ones that are truly criminal. Let's focus on that first. And we obviously are a country that has borders, but let's not be crazy about all these others when we've got people who are actually problematic that need to be dealt with.
If they're
not the person that came when they were young.
But if you're an immigrant and you are in jail today, and really I think we've tried to keep the president and his folks steered. Let's deal with the migrant. If you're here on a green card and you're in jail, current law says if I've committed a felony and I'm in jail when I'm done with my term, I'm to be turned over to immigration and deported. Let's focus our efforts and attention on that. And I think really the discussion since Holman got to Minnesota this
Hopefully
past week,
it's gonna bring the tension
it
down.
needs to bring the heat down.
I completely agree. We talked about that in the Odon Journal last week or 2 weeks ago. Like, it seems like there was within the Beltway, within the apparatus in Washington, D.C., there was some change where I think it was when maybe the second death happened, the president recognized from somebody, we need to bring the temperature down.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now,
And focus on the real problem
focus on the
and not
problem.
just
Yeah.
creating problems.
right. If you've been here, overstayed your term, however you got here, but you have been productive, that you've kept yourself employed, you're providing for your family, you've been a good member of society. I would say, if you came here illegally, I would not support a path to citizenship, but I would support a means to a legal work status.
Well, let me push back on that a little bit. What if somebody's 1 year old? They come here and they don't really know any better.
Well, at one point, was it 20?
Maybe they've got children who are
Right.
birthright citizens. What about a situation like that?
Legal status. But and my point is, if you came here illegally, if you're that 1 year old, yeah, I mean, there's, I mean, it's not, I mean, give them, if you're an adult who came here, you want to be a citizen, you got to go back and
That's fair.
touch.
I understand.
Come back.
Yeah.
But
We've got to have a process.
we've got to get a way to get them legal work status.
Okay.
Legal. I am a guest worker,
Yeah.
and not make it expire in 3 years. But if you're here as a guest worker and you're not working, no free welfare.
Right. That doesn't typically seem to be the case. It tends to be that adults come here,
Right.
and they'll send money back to their family.
Yep.
And then at some point, but look, no, I don't think there's a lot of disagreement.
No,
we had a huge problem in the last 4 years. They've done a lot of work to
The borders secure, and most of our people in the Republican caucus in D.C. said, "You secure the border,
yeah.
and then we will bring a real immigration reform bill to the floor." And Jim Jordan has said,
Okay.
I will have a hearing on an immigration reform because it'll go through his committee. And he has said, we said you fix the border, and then we'll talk about reform. And there's a real commitment to do that.
I love to hear that because, of course, we have to follow the rule of law. We have to do things that make sense, but we are a country of borders. I just worry about how we act towards some of these people at times. You're going to have bad actors over here, right? And I was very encouraged when this second gentleman, Mr. Holman, went out to Minnesota to bring the temperature down. So, and I'm thrilled to hear that maybe there could be some reform, and that be done in a way that makes sense.
Yeah. There's a will we ever get 100% of the Republicans to vote for an immigration reform package? Probably not.
Yeah,
It's going to have to be bipartisan.
sure.
But if it has common sense reforms that
I think that would be welcomed by everyone.
But if we don't have a bipartisan bill, it's never going to get 60 votes in the Senate.
Yeah.
So it's going to have to be a bipartisan effort. And I don't care if it starts in the House, starts in the Senate. But
Do you see that in the next couple of years? I mean, do you see something like that happening in, say, a 5-year window?
I would love to see it happen this year.
Okay. Is that you think it's on the horizon?
Yeah. I mean, if Jim Jordan is going to have a hearing and bring a bill to his committee, I mean, that, the committee chairman at the federal level, at the state level, they're the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
And if you get a bill out of committee, then you've gone a long way to getting,
That's great news.
Yeah.
This is good news, and I appreciate you trying to communicate about this. What's a difficult issue? It's something that the president ran on. It's something that you ran on.
Yep.
And it's probably made you ultimately got you into office in Congress. You had a famous commercial. I think you were playing the trumpet in that commercial. You won. You won like some sort of an award. Is that right?
I don't know if I'd. Well,
The commercial did. I thought it was like famous for what it was.
I'll have to call my marketing guy and ask him.
Yeah, I mean, it was like it was not unlike the governor's when he did this something different with no tie. And,
yeah. I mean, the guys that we work with on our marketing stuff. I mean, our campaign material. They're very creative, and they combine seriousness with humor. With I mean, so I'll have to call Barney and ask him about it.
Out. Yeah. We talked a little bit about this. Are there other places where maybe you diverge from the mindset of the day, or do you feel like largely you fall within the caucus? I mean, I know that you have been you've got the support of the conservative House Republican Caucus very recently. Is there anything that
I would say when I started in 2008? So my family business is a plumbing and heating contracting company, and we have a union contract.
Sure.
So when I started in 2008, I would say Republicans that were in support of, and I'm not going to say all unions, but building trade unions are typically pro-life.
Right.
Union. My plumbers and pipe fitters, pro-life, pro-gun, pro-family. They are our voting base. But for a long time, in general,
forever they were Democrat, vote Democrat,
vote Democrat.
Yeah.
And the Republican Party, in general, had a very anti-union mentality,
corporatist of sorts. Yeah, and that's changed.
It has, and from Trump 45 term, Trump 47 term. I mean, him actually inviting the president of the Teamsters Union to speak at the convention last summer, or 2024, 2 summers ago, was a powerful witness to the change. And I've seen that. I saw that at the State House from when I started to when I left, especially when it was focused on building trades, unions, because they are not one party supporters anymore.
I mean, they're just people, right? We're just people that are they're doing their work.
Yep.
Just like people that are coming to the country at a lot of the times trying to work, but we have to be able to at times draw the line.
So I would say when I started, I was probably one of the outliers, but by the time I left the State House, it really had become no less
kind of a new coalition of sorts.
Really, and for the Republican Party to bring that coalition of voters into our fold by just doing common sense support. I mean, and not having an aggressive anti-union mentality.
Yes, and that's smart.
That's a big change.
We've got to be attractive in what we're trying to do. The stuff that we're doing has to make sense ultimately.
But I would say there's probably not a whole lot that I would vary from normal Republican conservative.
Okay.
I mean, people criticize us from being sometimes being pro-business. Well, if we don't support the businesses of our country, if we don't support their efforts to try to bring and grow jobs here, how do any of us pay our bills? I mean, ultimately, you might not work for the big industrial companies in your community. I might not. My family might not do work at Kimball or Master Brand, but we support the people that are employees of those companies. We just, they're so integral to our. We have to have it, and so if people don't have jobs, our communities suffer. And so and you can't say, well, I never do that. I never support business to the point where it hurt. I would never support them being able to hurt the people that they employ. But most employers want to take care of their employees.
For sure.
I mean,
they're assets.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they help you, pay your own bills and keep your lights on and help your own family and have a life where you're flourishing and not
my employees at our family business. Well, I sold my ownership to my son at the end of 24, but we consider all of them family. I mean, they're part of your life. They're part of your family, and you want to take care of them, and you want to do what's
you want to do the right thing, and you care about. I mean, those people are close to you, so you care about them, but also the fact that they're a person, they have dignity,
Right.
and you want to show them some charity, some love. We are going. I don't know how long we're going. And this has been a great conversation, and I really appreciate you taking the time. I told you earlier that I'd like you to talk about something that makes you hopeful. So I'm at times politics is very polarizing. Okay, and I don't want
where I am hopeful and why, I mean, what does the media ever focus on? And I don't care if you watch Fox News or if you watch CNN or if you watch your local news.
It's always negative, right?
Always negative. Always negative. Always
fear. It's fear.
What drives clicks to that story is when people are upset. What draws people to the newscast? Their livelihood depends on people being upset.
Sure.
And negative, bad news sells. When I was in the State House, I can tell you from 16 years there, about 80 to 90% of what we did was bipartisan. But whatever made the news was the fight.
Yeah.
Probably in a normal
right to work, or these things that are, social issues that are super polarizing, or.
But I could count. There probably weren't 10 votes that were pure party. I mean, it was the exception to have straight party line votes.
Right.
And before I decided to, as part of the process, okay, Larry's retiring, I called Aaron Houchin, one of my friends from the state Senate who ran in 22. I said, Aaron, Larry's retiring. I think I want to do it. But I said, do you guys get anything done?
It's a fair question.
I said, because you
get a lot of things done in Indiana. Indiana's a well-run place.
Oh, yeah. But I said, all you see from the outside is the fight and the things, that's all you see. She said, we passed at that point, I think she said last year we passed 400 bills.
Wow.
And she said 80% of them were bipartisan.
You hear about the stuff that's split down the middle. You don't hear about the stuff that's bipartisan.
Yeah. And I would say, everything we vote on, so Monday when we fly out, Monday evening, is bills that we're going to bring straight to the floor in what they call the suspension calendar. It's stuff that's not controversial. It's stuff that may be passed in a prior, congressional session.
Sure.
You bring them to the vote Monday night, bring them to the floor, and it has to have 2/3 of the members support suspending the normal process to get that bill, to the floor. Get it passed out.
Okay.
And typically those are unanimous. We almost always, anything we put on the suspension calendar gets 2/3 of the members to support moving it. And more times than not, it's unanimous. So there's a lot of stuff that gets done, a lot of stuff that is bipartisan. Yeah. The vast majority of people out there are like me. I thought I had coined this phrase, but obviously a lot of other people use it. I always said at the State House, I'm a workhorse, not a show horse. And that's really kind of a common thing out there. You're either
putting on a show.
You're either 5 or 10 on each side of the aisle.
Right.
And if you see these people on TV every day, I can guarantee they're not doing a damn thing to fix any problems. They're there to get on TV because they're running for governor, because they're running for some other statewide office, because they're pushing for a TV anchor job. The people that you see on TV every night are not fixing any problems.
Right. They're in it for themselves, largely.
Totally.
And that's sad.
But that leaves 400 of us that are out there, Democrat and Republican, that are really trying to work to fix problems.
Okay. So I like this because this gives me some hope. If 400 out of 435 are trying, we should be.
It might even be
more than that.
Okay. And the second thing that gives me hope, Erin, she convinced me that it was a worthwhile taking my time away from my family, because when you're flying out to DC every week, I mean, some guys take their families with them, so you're not away from your family so much.
Yeah.
But my wife's got a active business. Our grandkids are all, she's not moving to DC. So, to go through that process of commuting, coming home every weekend, I had to feel like it was worth my time. And we have gotten a lot of good stuff done this year. The second thing that gives me hope, and if you like him, how he comes across on TV, Mike Johnson is the real deal.
Okay.
If he is as authentic. He lives his life. I mean, he doesn't bifurcate, put personal life, religious life, political life.
He's the real deal.
He's the real deal.
I like that.
And
he seems like a very kind person.
He is.
He's very calm, level-headed. And it was a struggle to get Mike Johnson. I mean, it was tough.
I mean, that process, I feel bad for McCarthy. I mean, that whole process and that one person being able to trigger.
Blow it up.
I mean,
it's a problem.
Thank God we changed that rule.
Yep.
And the guy who caused that problem is no longer in Congress.
You know what, though? You know what gives me not hope? He was the first choice to be the Attorney General of the United States. That's a problem. So people do these things because they ultimately get rewarded. And we got to stop rewarding bad behavior.
Bad behavior, absolutely. So anyway, Mike Johnson gives me hope. I mean, he's held our team together. In 2017,
he seems great.
In 2017, when they had the House, the Senate, and the presidency, that 2-year window, they blew every opportunity to deliver problem-solving solutions for the American people to a great degree, because there was too much infighting, there was too much division, there was really lack of a good leader, and Mike Johnson has done an amazing job.
Sure.
And we still have diverging interests. New York and California Republicans are a little bit different than Republicans that we would have here. Sure. The Republicans in the South. I mean, you've still got some very diverse points of view, but to keep our team together,
amazing
on every vote, on every key issue. This past week, we've gotten 11 of the 12 appropriations bills done, and they either held the line or cut spend. We reduced the discretionary budget by $400 billion.
That's amazing.
Now, never has there been cuts.
Sure.
But only appropriations bill that went up a little bit was defense. But everything else was flat or cut. And total and discretionary spending is only 24% of our budget. But we still cut $400 billion, out of, and in reconciliation, we cut $2 trillion. Now that's a 10-year forecast.
Sure.
$2 trillion in cuts.
Wow.
We got more to do. But and the CBO said it's going to add to the deficit only on one completely flawed premise. They said for the next 10 years, they projected we were only going to have GDP growth for the next 10 years, every year of 1.8%.
We should do better than that.
We did better. In the first quarter of 25, I think we were maybe 1%. Second quarter, 3%. The third quarter, 4%. And the fourth quarter, it'll be 5.1%. If we keep that type of economic, 1.8% growth is a joke.
Right.
We've never had less than 2% ever for a year.
Right. Yeah, no, it seems like we should beat that. So those two things, that makes you hopeful.
Yes.
I love hearing this, and I don't know how much time we have left, but I really appreciate that you were willing to talk about your faith, how it impacts some of your thought process. And sorry if I was pushing back on certain things.
No, but really, and sometimes sometimes there's a lot of issues we deal with that really don't have a faith component.
Right.
But then you've really got to look. You've got to look at your
prudential judgment.
Right. There's still constitutional principles.
Oh, for sure.
There's personal value. You elect somebody to represent you. as a township trustee advisory board. I mean, we are a representative republic, and whether it's township government, county government, city government, state government, national government, you want somebody there that does the best job of reflecting your values.
Yeah.
Do I have every answer to every problem that we deal with out in Washington? Impossible.
No. Yeah.
Impossible. I mean, I've got my skills, my background, my strengths that I, experiences that I bring that, I can be, definitive and try to bring solutions
Sure.
to the overall body.
Because that's what people want. I mean, they want something that's common sense. They want it. They want the government to work. Well, there's not always government solutions,
Right.
but by and large, we want it to work when there's something that needs to happen. I mean, infrastructure, basic stuff. And I agree with your premise earlier that the government has stepped in where the church should have been, and that causes problems. That's what people then. If you remember the Barack Obama posters, it's a picture of Barack Obama that said "Hope," right? So it's we've replaced some of these religious concepts with governance, right? And that's a problem.
What did Ronald Reagan say? The most dreaded words. I'm from the government, and I'm here to help.
That's funny, and that's true. One thing I did want to talk about. My daughter was going to be here today. She really wanted to see Congressman Messmer, and you were very gracious to us in hosting us in April of last year in the spring. Super fun trip.
Great having you out there.
Yeah, and we got to watch the House of Representatives on a very interesting vote. And she thought it was fascinating, and it sort of represents the nature of the country. Just this, I mean, people from New York, California, all over. In the galley, when we were sitting upstairs and watching this vote take place, and it was a close vote.
As many of them that we've had the last year have been.
When it's controversial, it can be close. But we were sitting up there, and we were next to some gentlemen that were clearly conservative Jewish. Okay, they were wearing yarmulkes, and their dress was, and so we started talking with them, and they were represented by member Congressman Lawler, just north of New York City, who is sort of probably in a tough race coming up because of the nature of his district. Sort of, he's kind of a moderate, I would say, and he would be he was an interesting guy, and they would point at him. He's like, "Oh, that's our guy," and they were very proud of him. They liked him quite a bit, but of course we spotted Nancy Pelosi. She was wearing a very colorful outfit. We spotted AOC. She was wearing a colorful outfit. We could spot at the very end. The speaker came in. We could obviously spot him. We saw Marjorie Taylor Greene. Some of these very notable characters that we've talked about. But it was interesting talking with the Jewish gentleman from New York, because that's what it reminds me of, that we all live in this country. We have very different at times or divergent ideas, but people want to see the common good play out
Right.
in government.
Yeah. And really, I'll say, as we worked on reconciliation this year, I mean, there were some things that we had to put in the bill that really fixed problems for, Representative Lawler. I mean, and he was very adamant that for him to be able to represent his district well, we needed to put some policy in place in that delivered relief to the people from New York that he represents. We are a representative republic. Did we get everything in there that I would have wanted? No. Did we get everything in there that Mike Lawler would have wanted? No. But to solve problems, you have to work, and sometimes don't let pursuit of the perfect ruin the achievement of the good.
Don't let the good forsake. Yeah, or don't forsake the good for the great. I think that's how they say it.
Yeah. So in this business, and I don't care, if it's at the local level, state level, if you ever say I get 100% of what I want, or I get nothing, well, most times in that situation you're going to get nothing.
Right.
In your own marriage, do you get everything?
I almost never win.
But it's give and take. There's times where, it's a process that if your mindset is I'm all or none, you're going to be very unhappy and very lonely in life. So you have to be able to
work with people,
work together,
see the other person's point of view.
Yeah, but I hate to even use the word compromise, because compromise means that I've compromised on my core convictions. No, everything doesn't have to be done the way I'm not a benevolent dictator.
That's right.
So nobody gets everything they want in life.
Right.
And you have to be able to work together. And I think people really want us to work together to solve problems. And I think by and large we do.
Oh, I think that's the case. You hear about these things, but I did enjoy your explanation that you've got hope, that a lot of the time people largely want the same thing. Maybe different ways of getting there. Maybe we start from different positions, but that's what they want. I wanted to thank you again for your hospitality in the spring and for coming on the show. Is there anything else that you think the readers of the Odon Journal or the listeners of the Juice podcast, that there would be something that you'd like to communicate to them?
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't take a minute to just brag on a few of the highlights of what we got done in the reconciliation bill last summer.
Okay.
And I think most people, kind of have heard bits and pieces.
This is the one big, beautiful bill.
One big, beautiful bill.
Yeah.
There's a lot in there. But there's so many wins for the people I represent. The doubling of the child tax credit positively impacts 80,000 families in my district, which is probably 240,000 people.
Wow.
The doubling of the standard deduction and making it permanent. It doesn't mean a future Congress can't reverse these things, but when you make them permanent, what's happened in our adult lifetime many times where
it sunsets.
So it's 2 years,
ebb and
3
flow,
years, 4 years.
Yeah.
And so at some point, could a future Congress say that provision is repealed? It's a whole lot tougher to repeal something than to just let it expire.
That's good.
And so permanent doubling of the standard deduction to $31,000 a couple is going to be that means 93% of the tax filers in my district
are exempt.
They get that get that off the top. It makes filing their taxes simpler.
Oh my goodness, that's the best news I've heard in a while. And I didn't know it was 31,000. That's a lot.
And adding on top of that, if you're 65 or older, you get an additional $6,000 per person.
Wow.
So that means you're going to have roughly, $48,000 of income? 93% of the senior citizens in my district will pay no taxes on their Social Security. There's some who have other incomes, higher incomes, but the president wanted no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. The write-off levels that we gave, nobody will pay taxes on tips and overtime. Those were campaign pledges he made. We found a way to get it done in that reconciliation process. The permanent 20,000 or 20% small business deduction. If you're a sub-S, an LLC, any kind of a pass-through business entity, taking 20% of your profit for the year as a write-off.
It's a big deal for small business.
That is a big deal. To be able to reinvest in capital improvements that you need in your company, trucks, vehicles, machines. The things that's going to allow small business owners, and the accelerated depreciation.
It's a big deal.
Permanent, $2 million. What that's going to give, that accelerated depreciation, the research and development tax credits, which impact big businesses more than small, the small business 20% deduction, all of those permanent, and what that's going to do to drive economic growth in our country. I mean, it's huge.
When they, I mean, you talked earlier about the 93%. I mean, that's to simplify the tax code for most people. That's it's a big deal.
Yeah, of that small business deduction, there's 44,000 small businesses in my district that'll take advantage of that.
Wow,
that is huge. And so I hate to not
highlight some of those things.
Another tiny piece.
Okay.
If you have a child born between 2025 and 2028, the Trump accounts.
I probably have like 3 of those kids.
Okay. Each one of those can open, and the federal government will put the first $1,000 in that account for you. If you did nothing but take that first $1,000, typically, historically, every 7 years, that account will double. So if nothing more than just that first $1,000 deposit was put in, when they're 18, they're going to have $5,000. If you put in another $1,000 a year, I mean, you take that compounding.
And so a lot of that money, it's not taxpayer money, right?
No.
It's like Michael Dell or somebody like putting money in for.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. This is an interesting question. We want more children. Now, I don't know that we should be just paying people to have kids, but
Probably not healthy, but I mean, a way to take away some of the financial, concerns that parents might have.
Sure.
How am I going to be able to afford this kid? But things that we can do, and things that we're looking at doing this year, eliminating the marriage penalty in the tax code.
well, it's got to happen.
Yeah. So
It's extremely important. All the things that you mentioned there. So that's effective January 1 of 25 or January 1 of 26?
January 1 of 25.
That's what I thought. So
Everything, all
now
of that
people
tax
right now
policy.
are right now filing their taxes under the.
They're going to benefit from everything that we did was made applicable for the entire year of 2025. So when you file this year, everybody's going to see, bigger tax refunds. I think they said the average family will see minimum $1,000 additional tax refund.
Oh, that's phenomenal. Yeah, the first 6 months. I mean, this year should be we should see an upswing in economic activity.
Yeah. And one of the things we touched on was tariffs and my overall view on tariffs for tariffs' sake are not necessary. I mean, it's just an indirect way to tax. But if the tariffs have an end goal, which when the president pushed tariffs up on foreign countries, I was at a dinner with the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom last year in May.
That's Starmer.
And he was sitting here, and a couple of the other people from the embassy were there. It was me and Senator Fisher, and they wanted to talk about the AUKUS Accords. And that's an agreement that the U.S. has to sell nuclear submarines to the Brits and the Australians, to give them access to our more access to our military hardware, to help as a group defend ourselves.
They're our friends.
They're our friends. And we were there to talk about that. And he said, "Pardon me if I have to step out of the room, but we're in the final negotiations with the president on a new trade agreement with Great Britain and the U.S." And so he got up a couple of times, and the second time he came back, he says, "America is going to love the trade deal that we're ready to sign." And they signed it the next day. And what they've agreed to, it was not only tariff rates, but it was I'll call soft, the regulatory framework in their countries that prohibited us from being able to enter the markets because of regulations, and opening up billions of dollars of energy and agricultural exports to Great Britain.
I remember that one now. Now that when would that have been last year?
May. May's when we had the dinner. I think they announced it in May. Till they got everything signed was everything was all signed was another month or so. But
It's a big deal.
and just this past week, India.
Yeah, biggest population in the world.
And what they have done to open up and primarily they're a very archaic agricultural, and so they had trade barriers that really prohibited us from being able to ship, soybeans, corn, wheat, to ship, into their country. And what they're going to do to open up energy, imports from the United States, agricultural. I think they said $500 billion a year. And so tariffs, when he ratcheted up on India, the only way you get their attention is to put an alternative out there that is unacceptable. But to use that to drive them to the bargaining table. And what he's done, and even recently, I think they announced last night, there was a press release or press conference on most favored nation drug pricing and what that's going to do to reduce drug costs in this country, and agreements that he's made with France, Great Britain, 20 of our most favored nation trading partners. He went to all of them and said, because they had laws that they would only pay the bare cost of a pharmaceutical product. And so because of all of those other countries and their restrictions, the development cost for every pharmaceutical product in this country was paid for by the American public.
Wow.
And for the same drug, we were paying 10 times what any other people, you probably heard people say, I ordered this prescription from Canada, because they would pay 1/10 the cost. And then they would, and so him going through, and he does that by saying, you're either going to sign this or we're going to jack your tariffs up here. He gives them an alternative that's unacceptable.
Not acceptable.
To bring them to the bargaining table, to give us free and fair trade. I mean, he's used that
You have to make it painful to get to that.
Yeah.
I got you.
Because if they were tariffing, if we were tariffing their product at 3% and they were tariffing our product at 25%, how do you get them to lower theirs unless you make it painful?
But I think we're in agreement that the only good tariff is the one that ultimately brings them down.
Brings everything. And I'm certain, the president's goal is to get these trade barriers knocked down.
Good.
And then to lower, have reciprocal tariff. I mean, if they're tariffing us at 3, we should be at 3, but we shouldn't be 3 for them and 25.
Right.
But you can't force them to the bargaining table unless you put something out there that's just unacceptable.
Okay.
I mean, I'll say one thing: the president is a master negotiator, and I wouldn't want to be in a contract.
The Art of the Deal. That's another book. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And he never take what he says initially as if people haven't figured it now, a year into his second term, how he operates. He puts an alternative out there that he knows he's not going to land here, but he can't land here if he starts here.
Well, I thought, we talked about the one big beautiful bill. I thought that was a masterstroke of leadership and you all falling in line. It's painful, but that got done by July the 1st last year, and to pass one big piece of legislation, and that's tough.
Nobody, and the Senate up until a month before until we passed it at the end of May, they were still talking about 2 bills, one on immigration, one on taxes, and whatever. So no, if you don't keep it together, you're going to take the easy one and never take the tough one.
I'm not always a fan of omnibus approach. You want to know what's in there.
Yeah, but even as we worked on that one, HR 1, but we took it all every committee of jurisdiction worked. I knew intimately what was in the ag bill, what was in the defense, committee. The committees that I'm on, education, agriculture, and defense, we all knew, every committee that worked on it worked on the details. Then when it got to the floor, we combined all of those committee reports, into one bill. But, it was not a backroom deal cut by,
2 people.
It was the work of the entire body.
I followed it closely, and I had many doubts that it was going to it was going to get done.
There was many days I think we all thought.
And so it's a huge win for the caucus when something like that happens, and we'll see. Like the idea of passing legislation it should benefit people, right?
Yeah, I think we've proved time and time again, as a Republican majority, we can govern.
And that's been a point in the past that they're a good minority party, but they can't govern, right?
But yeah, I think we've shown. Hopefully, we're showing our base with it. And is the budget balanced after 1 year? No, but when you're so far, but did we reduce our deficit this year? Yeah. Have we changed the trajectory? I mean, you can't turn a battleship on a dime. Mm-hmm. But and where the real work still remains to be done is in mandatory spending programs. Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security are, and all of the mandatory programs are 75% of the budget.
Really? Mm-hmm. I didn't know it was that much.
Mm-hmm. Actually, 76. Wow. 24% of the budget is discretionary. 76 is on autopilot. And what we did this year with, and when they said, the Democrats accused us of slashing Medicaid, slashing benefits. We did not. The only person who's going to not have benefits that was getting them before was illegal immigrants. 1.7 million illegals, and we had in code that you had to be a citizen, whatever, legally to qualify.
Yep.
But states were banned from requiring documentation. So the Congressional Budget Office said 1.7 million illegals were getting Medicaid and getting food stamps. So we did cut benefits to them. Mm-hmm. But anybody else that was on the program, the only change we made to the food stamp and Medicaid policy was, before, in 1996, you were supposed to be working or volunteering 20 hours a week or going back to school. If you were 18, at the time it was 18 to 53, we changed it to 18 to 64, because if you're able-bodied, that means no, you don't have dependent children at home, able-bodied men and women with no dependents, no physical disability, you're going to volunteer or work 18 or 20 hours, volunteer work. And of that 30 million people that are in that pool of able-bodied men and women that were receiving, at that point, food stamps, and we added Medicaid to that, states had used a loophole, and it was supposed to be only exemption to that work requirement is if the unemployment in your state was over 10%. But they had, through rulemaking in the USDA, interpretation by states, they had determined lack of quality jobs was another loophole.
Sure.
So 40% of that able-bodied population was no longer working, primarily in blue states.
Sure.
By taking away that lack of available jobs, striking that that option that states were using, it's going to take it from 40% of the people not working to 0.5%. Mm-hmm. So, and if you have, if just 15 million of those 30 million actually go to work 20 hours a week, some might volunteer, some might just say, I ain't doing either, and voluntarily take themselves off. Mm-hmm. But if 15 million of those people go back to work, and good luck hiring anybody for less than $15 an hour.
Sure. That
will drive $48 billion into the Social Security and Medicare fund per year.
Wow.
You take
a big deal.
You take 20 hours times 15 times what's the employee 15.3
FICA. Yeah.
Take that FICA. They may not pay a penny of income tax, but there's no bypassing the FICA.
I mean, there's been an incredible amount of change in a fairly short period of time. That's kudos to you, people in the caucus. Some people will see it as negative. Many people will see it as positive. And we're gonna see how people see it.
Yeah,
population at large.
Well, at the end of the day, when the midterms get here, most people will vote based on how their economic prosperity is
For sure.
playing out.
And I think it's going to, this first 6 months this year is really going to impact a lot. I mean, the first 6 to 9 months.
Yeah. So I'm sure the president's team is looking at, and what they, the drug pricing plan that they announced last night. We heard about that a couple weeks ago. I mean, taking our average cost of those drugs and cutting them by 75, 80%. France, Germany, Canada, Great Britain, they're going to pay 3 to 4 times as much.
Right.
But it puts them into the pool of paying for the development cost
I gotcha.
of those
See,
prescriptions.
I didn't understand that. I'm glad that you talked about that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I mean, it's going to be huge. Now, I didn't pull up the website last night, but I know people that did, that looked at all the categories of drugs, and Eli Lilly's a big proponent of doing this.
Sure.
Because they knew, under the old formula, we're paying the burden, we're paying all the development cost of those meds, and they're looking forward to being able to deliver those things like for
Ozempic.
Yeah.
People tell me that I need that, but I don't know.
And just things, just normal stuff for blood glucose monitoring. I mean the insulin. I mean all of those products that are going to drop exponentially.
Oh, we've got to get there. I mean,
Yeah.
we can't
We can't carry the load for the
Right.
entire world.
Right. We're going to wrap up here, and I really appreciate it. And I want you to, maybe you'll come on the show again
Love to.
in the future. Okay. This has been a great conversation. One of the things that I want to ask you that I often ask people that I talk to who are in elected office, when you come back, I want to know somebody from the other side of the aisle that you've had maybe a positive impact on. There wasn't a lot of mixing that I saw, but there was some. There were some, and when now Governor Braun, the U.S. Senator, when he was in the Senate, I would ask him like, "Hey, who do you talk to on the other side of the aisle?" And he would just tell me different people. So you don't have to tell me now, but in the future when you come back, we'll look at maybe in a few months.
So typically, I'm fortunate. 2 of the committees that I'm on are usually and historically very bipartisan, and so on Agriculture Committee, there are colleagues that I work with on the other side, and on Armed Services Committee. Just as an example, when we passed the National Defense Authorization Act out of committee this past summer, it was 55-2.
Well,
and there's several of the members, Representative Norcross and I worked together on a group called the Hypersonic Caucus. But there are some colleagues that and a lot of them are freshmen that came in with our class, and the first the week after election in 2024, for a 2-week period we had a orientation process, and we were all at the same hotel, and so in the evenings we all gather for dinner, and get to meet them, get to know them. When you get to know somebody, and this was something that Speaker Johnson said he learned pretty quickly. He said, when you get to know a person and you get to know the names of their kids,
for sure,
and you get to know them as a human being, it's a little tougher to.
You can't hate them.
Yeah,
they're just a person.
Yeah,
they've got different views, but I love that. Well, that gives me some hope. I mean, just that know some of these people, and I wish you the very best over these next few weeks. I know you're going to be returning to DC here shortly.
Monday morning. Yep.
Okay. Well, do your best. And we really appreciate your hard work. Thank you for coming in, and please do come back.
Absolutely. Look forward to doing it again.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching The Juice by the Odon Journal. Tune in next week for more Daviess County news, freshly squeezed.